Right, so we are in our second practical exercise of this whole video course, and in this video I'm going to solve 4 questions. You can see the questions here on the screen. These are the 4 questions that I'm going to solve, and the main intention of this practical session or a practical video is that you guys should get your hands dirty with your code, with your own code. You know what I mean? I want you guys to, just go ahead and first of all read the problem, read the questions, and then try to think of a way to write a program to solve that given question or that given scenario. So these are basically scenarios or questions, whatever you like to call them. So I want you to write your own code, and then it's okay if you do wrong. It's okay if you get your do something wrong in your code. It's okay if you get a syntax error. It's okay if you do some logical error, whatever, but at least give it a try. In order to actually learn programming, one most important thing is that you need to practice. You need to start writing your own programs. You can't just sit on your desk and you can't just watch a person on your computer teaching you how to write code. You have to get there, you have to start writing your own code, and only then you can start learning, right? So yeah, you can actually pause the video right here. You can read the questions one by one, and you can go ahead, write your program in Java or Python or both. I'll be very much appreciated. It will be very much appreciated if you write the programs for all these questions in both the languages, Python and Java. But anyways, just go ahead and give it a try, give it a shot, and it's okay if you do wrong, and come back once you're done writing programs for this. And it's okay if you think like these questions are too tough to write a program, but just give it a try. Alright, so I'm hoping that all of you watching this video at least gave it a shot, at least try to write a program for any of these 4 questions, right? So anyways, I'm going to now go ahead and write the programs for each and every question right here. There are 4 questions in total, so I'm going to start from 1 and I'm going to go all the way to 4. Now, first of all, I'm going to do it in Java, and next we'll go on to Python and we'll solve the same set of 4 questions in Python as well. Right, so let's go ahead and talk about the first question, which is a government wants to provide student loans to students in their country, but in order for a student to be eligible to get a discount loan, he or she must be in the age range 17 to 21 and must have a minimum of 80% in academics. Write a program to accept the name, age and marks of a student and display if he or she is eligible for the loan or not. So this is basically the example that I've given while I'm talking about conditional statements, right? So we will be actually implementing the same by writing a code in Java. So actually let me copy this question and let's actually make this as a comment in our program, right? Because why not? Alright, so first of all, let me save the file as a Java file. I'll say q1.java, right? q1.java, and I'll put that as a comment. I'll paste the whole question as a comment, and in case if you don't know what I just did, so this is basically a multi-line comment is what we call in Java. So in order to write a comment which will occupy more than one line, then you can use this slash followed by 2 asterisks, and then to end the multi-line comment you can put an asterisk and a slash, just like that. So that anything that's written in between these 2 things, all this stuff will be treated as a comment and it won't be executed or considered by the compiler in the first place. So yeah, it's a great way to actually explain your code, explain to others what you're doing with that particular statements in your code or something like that. So it's a great way to make use of comments like that. Right, first of all, let me actually write the template of my Java code, public static void main, the same boring stuff, right? String args, and there we go. So now we are ready to write the code. So first of all, let's actually talk about the inputs that we want to take for this question. You can see that the government here wants to provide student loans to the students. So basically it has set some conditions so that only these particular students who satisfy these conditions will be able to get a loan, right? So we have to actually take a student. So it says write a program to accept the name, age and marks of a student and display if he or she is eligible for the loan or not. So it's pretty clear what our input should be, right? So our input should be the student name, the age and marks. And once we get the name, age and marks, what we have to do, it says in order for the student to be eligible to get a student loan, the first condition goes here, he or she must be in the age range 17 to 21. So we have three inputs, name, age and marks, and age we have to compare, or we have to check if it lies between 17 to 21, right? So because that's what the first condition is. And there's also another condition which is set, that is they must have a minimum of 80% score. So our third parameter or our third input that we're going to take from the user is the marks, is the percentage marks, and we have to check if this percentage marks is greater than or equal to 80%. So that and only if these two conditions, condition 1 and condition 2, are satisfied, only then we can print out that that particular student is eligible for the student loan. Else we can just print out the particular student is not eligible, right? Right. So first of all, let's start writing the, let's start taking the input. So I'm using the java.utility class to actually import the scanner class and create a scanner object to take the input from the user. Right, perfect. Now we are ready to go and we can take the input using this object in of the class scanner. Right, so the first input is the name. So what would be the data type of a name? Yes, it's going to be string, because it's going to be a set of characters, right? So I'm going to say string name equal to in dot next line. So this function next line is actually used to take a string as an input from the user. So we have already discussed it in our previous video tutorial. So anyways, the first input is our name, the name of the student, which is of string data type. The second input is going to be age, right? So what data type would the age be? We know that age is a number, so a number also it doesn't have a fractional part. Like if you ask the age of someone, they will be like 21, they won't be like 21.5, right? So basically the age will not have a fractional part, so which means we pretty much know what data type to use, right? So we're going to use int for that, and I'm going to say int age equal to in dot next int to take integer data type as the input. And the last one is marks, and marks are we can either use integer data type to take the percentage marks of this student, or we can use a double as well, because it's pretty common for people to express marks like in double. Like if you ask someone what is their percentage marks in their academics, they might say, I don't know, 86.7%. So it's pretty common for people to do that. So we'll use a double data type. You can use the integer data type as well, but yeah, it all depends on how you want your program to work, right? So I'm just saying double, and I'm going to say marks equal to in dot next double. So yeah, there we go. So first of all, I've taken name of string data type as an input, and then age of integer data type, and then marks of double data type. Perfect. Now I have taken the input from the user. The next step is that I have to actually compare or check these conditions, both condition 1 and condition 2, and let's go to it. So first condition is that the age should be between 17 to 21. So I'm going to use the if block right there, and I'm going to say if age is greater than or equal to 17, and then I need to actually check if the age is greater than 17, and also I need to also check that the age is less than 21 too. So I actually need to do two conditions here, right? So how do you actually merge these two conditions? Yes, we use logical operators, right? So what logical operator should we use here? Since the condition is that the student must be greater than 17 and less than or equal to 21, we'll use a logical AND operator. So we'll just use AND right there. So that is the logical AND operator in Java. If you don't know, we have discussed it in the previous videos. And age is less than or equal to 21. So this condition says that the age of the student must be greater than 17 and less than 21, which is probably what is just meant by the age range 17 to 21, right? So yeah, we can just I can just do an open close flower brackets like that, and yeah, now if this condition passes, the control or the program will go into this inside this if block right here. So this is the first condition. Let me write it as a comment, condition 1, right? And then we also have a second condition, right? So the second condition is that they must have at least 80% score in their academics, right? So basically, even if this first condition is passed, we also should check for the second condition as well, because there might be students who might pass the first condition, but they might fail the second condition. Like there might be a student X whose age is 18. So the first condition, that the age range must be 17 to 21, is true, is passed, but he might be getting a CGPA or a score of 73%, in which case the second condition will fail. So we have to actually check the second condition as well before coming to a conclusion that a particular student is eligible for the loan, right? So I'm going to say another if block inside this if block. Yeah, you can actually do that, and I'll say if marks greater than or equal to 80, right? If marks is greater than or equal to 80, and then I'm going to do another if block right here. So what happens is, this is the first condition. So if this first condition is passed, it will come inside the block, and then it has a second condition right here, which checks if the marks is greater than or equal to 80. So this is the second condition. Let me just put it right there, second condition. And if this second condition is passed, then it comes inside this if block right here, and the control will just come here. So we can just print out what we want. I mean, if the control comes inside the second if block, that means that the student is eligible, because both the condition 1 and 2 are passed. So we'll just print out system out println, I'll say name plus is eligible, right? So yeah, see what I did there. So I'm actually printing name, and then name is basically the input that we took, if you remember. So that's basically the name of the student. So I'm printing out that this particular student is eligible. So if these two conditions are passed, it means that this particular student is eligible, right? And we can just go ahead and write an else part right there, and we can just say system.out.println, and then I can say name plus is not eligible, right? So if this condition fails, it comes to the else block and it prints out that the student is not eligible. But actually there's something unfinished here. So let's say a student, as I've told you earlier, is indeed in between the age range 17 and 21, but he doesn't have 80% marks. In that case, this condition passes, the first condition passes, so it comes inside the if block, and then the second condition fails. But what happens if the second condition fails is that it has no other statements after this if block right here, so it will immediately come out of this if block, and it also won't go to the else part right there, because the else part will only be executed only if the corresponding if block is not satisfied, right? In that case, we will not be getting any output, because it just comes to the end of the program, I mean the end of the main function and then the end of the class. So we will not be getting any output, right? So we have to make sure that we also include an else part here, and we can just say the same thing over here. We say student is not eligible, right? You can just say student is not eligible. So in that case, even if the first condition passes and the second condition fails, the control then comes to this statement over here, which prints out that the student is not eligible, right? So let's go ahead and open our command prompt, cd desktop, and then cd learn programming, and then what's the name of the folder? It's 9 practical exercise 2. No, okay, I've done some mistake right there, I guess. What's the mistake? cd learn programming. Oh, sorry. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and compile the file java c q1.java. Hope there's no syntax errors. Oh, okay, there are syntax errors. I forgot to actually put a semicolon right here for these two statements. So yeah, I fixed it anyway. Let's go ahead and compile this, and there we go, no compilation errors. Let's run this file now, java q1, and actually we are not getting anything printed on the screen because we have actually not displayed an appropriate message. So we'll fix that actually before executing this program so that user knows what to do. So before actually taking the input right here, I'll just say system dot out dot println, enter your name. I'll just put print so that the pointer stays in the same line. Right, so the same thing I'll do for the next two inputs as well. This one, enter your age, and then enter your marks. Perfect. Now it will be a little more user friendly, I guess. So let's compile this again, and let's run this. So first of all, it says enter your name. Let me enter my name, Teja, and my age 18, and my marks, which is probably 76. It's true, by the way. And it says Teja is not eligible. So yeah, success, right? So the first condition actually is satisfied because the age range is between 17 to 21, but the second condition, that the marks should be greater than or equal to 80%, has actually failed, if you can see, because my percentage is actually 76. So it should say that I am not eligible for the student loan, which it indeed did. So yeah, our program is working. And also note that most of the times you can't just come to a conclusion that your program is correct by just executing it for once and by giving it inputs just for once, because yeah, there might be many logical errors that you might be committing. So you want to actually give a wide range of inputs to test if your program is actually correctly written and if it's actually correctly doing stuff which you want it to do, right? But here, since this is a very simple program and I know for sure that this is correct, I'm not going to execute it again. But anyways, in your case you might want to, because that's a good practice actually, to give a wide range of inputs to test your program to see if it's logically doing stuff correctly as expected. Now one more thing is here is that actually we can also eliminate all this stuff. So we don't need an if inside an if like this, because over here I can just say and I can add another condition, which is marks greater than or equal to 80, right? So if I did that, I don't need an if condition right here, because I'm already checking the marks if it's greater than or equal to 80 here. And also I don't need an else inside this if, because that makes no sense. You can't put an else without a corresponding if, right? So in this case it also works. Let me show you. Java C q1.java. So Java q1. So let's say Bob, age is 20 and marks are 81. So yeah, it says Bob is eligible. Perfect. Right. So yeah, there are pretty, like, you can write a program in many ways possible, but you have to make sure that you are making use of the computer resources as less as possible. You know, by doing that you can make sure that your program is actually running faster, or it's more efficient, right? Alright, that's it for the first program. Now let's go to the second program. Let's copy all that stuff and let's actually create a new file. So the question is, check if the nth power of a number is even or not. So in the brackets it says take the number and the power as input. So basically it's a very simple question, very simple to understand as well. What you have to do is you have to take a number and you have to take another number which we will raise as a power to the previous number, and we have to check if this result is an even number or not, right? So it's a pretty simple question. Let me actually write the boring template for our Java program. Right, so once again we need to take input from the user. We'll say java.util.start. So we can use the scanner class right there, scanner in equal to new scanner system.n. right? So first of all, I have to take the number as the input. So I'll say system.out.print enter the number, and then I'll take the number. So I'll say int num equal to n.next int, right? And then I have to take the power. So I'll say enter the power, and I'll say int n equal to n.next int. So so num is actually the number and n is the power which we want to raise the previous number that we have taken as input. Anyway, so what function do you actually use to raise a number to a particular power? We have already discussed it. We're going to use math.pov. So math is basically a predefined Java class which has all the mathematical operations and stuff. So there is a particular function inside this class which is pov. So using this, you can actually raise a number to an nth power, where n is any number you wish, right? So it's a double. So one more thing to remember is that this function math.pov returns a double data type value. So you have to use a double data type value, otherwise you will be getting a runtime error, right? So which means your program will not be executed until you fix that error. So anyways, you have to use a double data type there, and you'll say double result equal to, and you can say math.pov, and then you can say math.pov followed by num comma n. So basically I'm raising num to the power n, right? And the result is going to be saved in this data in this variable result. And now once we actually raised the num to the power n, what we have to do is we have to check if it is an even number or not, if this result is an even number or not. So how do you check if a number is an even number or not? It's simple, right? Take the number which you want to check, divide it by the number 2, and if there is any remainder other than 0, it means that that particular number is an odd number. But if the remainder is 0, it means that particular number is an even number. So that's what we're going to do. So when I bring in the concept of reminders, what can you think of? You must think of the mod operator, right? Because we use that to find out the remainder of a division. So anyways, so what I'll do here is I'll compare if result is an even or an odd number. So I'll say if result mod 2 equal to 0, that means system.out.println result is even, something like that, simple message. Else, which means if the remainder is not equal to 0, we can just print out that the number is odd, right? Perfect. It's a really simple program. First of all, we are actually raising num to the power n using the math.pov function of the math class, which is predefined in Java, and then we are actually checking if this result when divided by 2 gives a remainder 0, because if it gives a remainder 0, then we can say that particular number is an even number, else it's just an odd number. Simple program. So let's actually go ahead and do the compilation. So I'll say java c q2.java compile, and java q2. So enter the number 6, enter the power 2. So result is even. So what's the result, by the way? 6 to the power 2, 6 square is 36. 36 is an even number, and it says result is even. So once again, you can give a wide range of inputs to test if your program is actually doing the right task or not, or if it has some kind of logical error. But anyways, since this is a very simple program, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, we are done with the second question as well. Now going to the third question. Let me copy it and let's create a new file, and later we'll look at the question. But first, let me create a file, q3.java. Right, perfect. This is the question. So we have to check if a triangle is a right angle triangle or an isosceles triangle. So basically a triangle is a right angle triangle. How do you say if a triangle is right angle triangle? If that triangle follows Pythagoras theorem, then we can say that the triangle is a right angle triangle, right? So how do we say if a particular triangle is an isosceles triangle then? Well, if two sides of these triangles are at least two sides of these triangle are equal, then we can say that the particular triangle is an isosceles triangle. So based on this concept, we are going to write this program. So in order to do this, actually, obviously we will need the input as the three sides of the triangle. So we have to actually take three sides of the triangle, and based on those sides, based on the length of those sides, we have to check if the triangle is a right angle triangle or an isosceles triangle or some other kind of triangle, right? So yeah, let's actually do it. Class Q3 public static void main string args. So first of all, I'm going to take the input. So I'm going to use java.util.star, and then I'll just use a scanner class, scanner in equal to new scanner system, new scanner system dot in, and I'm going to say system.out.print, enter the first side, right? Enter the first side. I'm going to say A is the first side. I'll say in.next in. So I'm taking them as an integer data type. So same way I will input the other two sides as well. So I'll just copy this these two statements and I'll paste it. Enter the second side and I'll call it as B. And I'll say enter the third side and I'll call it as C. So perfect. Now the variable A has the length of the first side, variable B has the length of the second side, and variable C has the length of the third side. So first of all, we have to check if the triangle is on Pythagoras, if it satisfies Pythagoras theorem. So basically, if it satisfies Pythagoras theorem, we can say that the triangle is a right angle triangle, right? So yeah, what is the Pythagoras theorem? If you don't know, that Pythagoras theorem states that the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle equal to the root of the other two sides, the squares of the other two sides, right? So yeah, let's actually do this. Let's say, first of all, let's check if the triangle is right angle triangle, right? Yeah, so first if condition is if C equal to math.sqrt of math.pow a comma 2 comma math.pow b comma 2. Okay, just chill. If you don't know what I just did there, it's okay, I'll explain you everything. So Pythagoras theorem, as I've told you, states that the third side or the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle is equal to the square root of the squares of the other two sides, right? So what I'm doing is the third side, I'm taking the third side, which is C, which is going to be the hypotenuse if it is a right angle triangle, and then I'm checking if this, if the length of this third side is equal to, so I'm using double equal to operator here to check for equality. I'm checking if it is equal to, and then math.sqrt, as we know, we use it to find out the square root of a particular number, right? So we are checking if this is equal to square root of all this stuff. So what does this stuff mean? First of all, I'm saying math.pow a comma 2. Right? And sorry, this is going to be a plus and not a comma right there. So anyways, what this means is square root of math.pow a comma 2, which is a square if you write it in math, plus math.pow b comma 2, which is b square. So basically it's saying math.sqrt of a square plus b square, which is equal to root of a square plus b square if you write it in plain form, right? So yeah, that's what we did, and let's start the if block right there. So if this condition is satisfied, which that means that that particular triangle is actually satisfying Pythagoras theorem. So we can just go ahead and print out the triangle is right angled. right? And we also should check if the particular triangle is an isosceles triangle or not. So I can just say else, right? I can say else, and then I can write a condition here. Actually, I don't need to write a condition there, because if I do else right there, it means this will automatically get executed if this condition which is written inside this if it actually fails, right? So if fails, the control automatically comes to the else part, right? So but actually, should I use an else statement here? Because think about it, it takes a little bit of math knowledge. That's it. If you take a triangle, it can either be a right angle triangle, which means the angle between the two sides is 90 degrees, or the hypotenuse is equal to the stuff with the Pythagoras theorem, or the either two sides of this triangle are equal. But it can also be another kind as well, right? So for example, it can be something else. A particular triangle that we get as an input might not be a right angle triangle, and it might not also be an isosceles triangle. It can be of some other type as well, right? I'm not very good at math, I'm not very good at this shapes and stuff, but yeah, there can be other type of triangle other than right angle or isosceles, right? I don't know, I'm not sure if I was right, if I'm correct or not, but that's what I think. So obviously I should not use an else part here, because I have to actually check the condition if the triangle is an isosceles triangle, right? So I'm going to check if the triangle is isosceles. I don't know if I spelled it right. So I'm going to say if, and notice why I'm not using else if instead of if, because a given triangle can be both a right angle triangle and an isosceles triangle at the same time, right? So yeah, that is pretty much possible. So if I put else if instead of if right there, it means that if the first if, which means this condition, is satisfied, then the control will ignore the else statement or the else if statement, which is written right next to the first if block, right? But we don't want that to happen, because in any given scenario, any given triangle might be both a right angle and an isosceles triangle as well. So we will actually use if instead of else if. So even if this condition is failed or passed, no matter what the result of this condition is, the program will come to this second if block, no matter if this is true or false, right? So what is actually meant by a isosceles triangle? It means that at least two sides of this triangle must be equal. So I'm going to say if A equal to B, or B equal to C, or A equal to C. It's pretty easy to understand, right? So what I'm doing is I'm checking if any of the two sides of the triangle are equal. So if it's equal, I'm just going to print the triangle is isosceles. I don't know if I spelled it right once again. So first we checked if the triangle is right angle, and second we checked if the triangle is an isosceles triangle. So what if the given triangle is not a right angle triangle and it's also not an isosceles triangle? In that case, we should also handle that condition as well. If a given triangle is not an isosceles and also not a right angle triangle, and we have to print out appropriate message, like something like the given triangle is not of known type or something like that, right? So we can just simply write a else part like this, and we can say the triangle is not of known type. So for example, let's say a particular triangle is not a right angle triangle. So this first if block, this first condition will get failed, and the program will come out of this if block. It will not execute this if block because this condition is not satisfied. So it comes to the second if block, and it now checks if the triangle is isosceles triangle or not. So if the triangle is not an isosceles triangle, which means if this condition fails, then the control or the program skips to the else part of this if statement, which is this thing right here. So it just goes ahead and executes everything inside this else block which is this system out println statement, which says that the triangle is not of known type. Simple, right? Yeah, simple. Now let's actually go ahead and run this file. So I'll say javac q3.java. Yeah, no errors. So let's run this java q3, enter the first side 454. So you can see that the first side which I entered 4 is actually equal to the third side. So it said that the triangle is isosceles. So yeah, my program is pretty good, right? It's running, it's working, it's giving us the expected result. Right, now let's go to the fourth program, the last program for this practical exercise. And I guess we have already passed 30 minutes. I don't know, but if you're still watching this, thanks for watching. Thanks for patiently being there and watching. I hope it's interesting. I'm trying to make it as interesting as possible. Anyway, so the fourth question, let's solve the fourth question as well. First, let me create a Java file to solve that fourth question. So I'll say q4.java and oops, sorry. So the fourth question says, check if the character entered by the user is an uppercase character or a lowercase character. So there's something new you're going to learn with this program, and you will come to know what it is while you're trying to do this. So if you tried to do this program by yourself before actually watching this video, then you probably might have ended up not getting or not solving this program or not solving these questions successfully, because there's one new thing which you are not aware of, considering you are only familiar with this particular course and you have not referred to any other material on the internet, because I've not told you about how to check if a particular character is an uppercase character or a lowercase character. Well, did I not? Actually, no, actually yes, you can actually solve this thing. You can actually solve this program as well without referring to any other material on the internet, because I've already told you about this stuff. I just realized it right now. But anyways, let's go ahead and solve this stuff. Let's create q4 so as usual, let's import java.util.star. So let's take the character. Obviously it's given in the program, in the question, that we have to take the character. So I'll say enter your character. So I'm going to take character as the input, right? So I'm going to say char ch equal to, so in order to take a character as an input in your program using the scanner class, you actually don't have a function. You just can't say ch.nextChar. So there is actually no function that exists with this name nextChar. Like, we can input an integer by using the function nextInt, or a float by nextFloat, and all the other data types. But to input a character using a scanner class, you don't have a function. You don't have a defined function like something like nextChar. So in order to actually take a character as an input, what you need to do is this is what you do. You can say in.next. So basically in.next takes the token as an input from the user, and then you say dot character at of 0. So yeah, this function char at is a new function because you have not seen it until now. So for now, just try to remember it, because in an upcoming video we're going to learn all about these functions, right? So basically I'll explain you what I just did. So this in.next, this next function takes the input as a string data type, right? So what we are doing to this string data type value that we are taking as an input is we are actually converting it. It's kind of like converting. It's not actually technically converting it into a character, but basically we are transforming this string into a character. So what is meant by a string? Actually, it's a set of character or a sequence of characters, but a character is just a single character, right? So we are basically transforming this string into a character, right? So that's what you need to understand as of now, because in the future videos you will be learning all about this stuff very clearly. So for now, just try to understand that in order to take a character as an input using the scanner class, this is what you do, right? So now we have taken the character as the input, and the next thing we need to do is we have to check if the character entered is an uppercase character or a lowercase character. So how do you do this actually? How do you check if a particular character, it's basically not a character, it's an alphabet? That would make it more sense, because you can't say if a character, for example, an asterisk, which is a character, you can't say if it's an uppercase or lowercase, right? It's only valid for alphabets like A to Z, right? So anyways, check if the alphabet entered by the user is an uppercase character or a lowercase character. So how do you do this? How do you differentiate an uppercase A from a lowercase a? Remember ASCII tables? Yeah, we have actually spoken about ASCII tables a lot, right? So let's actually go ahead and look at our ASCII table now. Let's just Google ASCII table, and let's look up the values of the characters of the alphabet characters, I mean, which means A to Z, right? So if you can see, 65 is actually A right here, so it's capital A. So it goes on until 90, where 90 is capital Z. But if you look up for small a to small z, it starts from 97 to 122. So you can basically tell if a particular alphabet is an uppercase alphabet or a lowercase alphabet by looking at the ASCII value of that particular character, right? So what we need to do is, first we have to convert the character into an ASCII value, and then we have to check if that ASCII value lies between 65 to 90, because 65 is capital A and 90 is a capital Z. So if it lies between 65 and 90, we can say that the particular alphabet is a capital alphabet, because that's what ASCII table, that's what the ASCII values of capital A to Z are. But if it lies between 97 to 122, 97 to 122, it means that the particular alphabet is a lowercase alphabet, because smaller lowercase a to z, actually the ASCII values of these lowercase a to z is 97 to 122, right? So if the ASCII value of the entered character is anything other than 65 to 90 or 97 to 122, if it's not in the range, if it's not in either of these ranges, we can say that the particular character is not an alphabet at all, right? Perfect. I think you got what I was trying to convey you, but anyways, so first of all we need to convert it into integer. So I'll say int ASCII equal to, I'll use integer of ch. So I'm basically explicitly converting the character into an integer data type, and now I will check if this ASCII value is in between the range 65 to 90. So I'll say if ASCII greater than or equal to 65 and ASCII less than or equal to 90. So basically, if this condition is satisfied, that means that the particular entered character is an uppercase alphabet, right? So I will just print out system.out.println uppercase letter, right? Else if the ASCII value is in the range 97 to 122, is greater than 97, and ASCII less than or equal to 122, it means that the particular entered character is a lowercase letter, right? So I'll just print out lowercase letter. But if these two conditions are not satisfied, it means that the entered character is not an alphabet at all. So I'll just print out, I'll just put another else, which means if these two conditions fail, then the program will execute this else block immediately. So I'll just print out the character is not an alphabet, right? So yeah, that's pretty easy as well. So let's go ahead and compile this and see. Java C, what's that? Java C q4.java, and then Java q4. So enter your character. Let me enter A. So it says lowercase letter. So let's run this again. Let's give another input. Let me enter uppercase A, and it says uppercase character. So let's actually give something other than an alphabet. Say, like for example, let's give an asterisk as an input to the program, and it says the character is not an alphabet. So yeah, perfect. Our program is perfectly running. So now we have solved all the 4 questions in Java, and in the next video we'll be doing the same. We'll be solving the same set of 4 questions on Python as well.